The year is 1945. The Third Reich is collapsing. In the chaos of retreat, a convoy of German trucks races across the North African desert, carrying a cargo that would haunt historians for decades. 5,000 of the most revolutionary weapons ever created, simply vanishing into the sand. This is the story of the StG44, the rifle that changed warfare forever, and the mystery of what happened to those lost weapons. April 1942, the Eastern Front. A German soldier crouches in a frozen trench outside Stalingrad. His bolt-action Kar-98K rifle is reliable, but slow. One shot, then he must manually cycle the bolt while Soviet troops advance with their rapid-firing PPSH submachine guns. He's outgunned at close range, yet ineffective at distance. The German High Command knows they have a problem. They need something that doesn't exist yet. A weapon that combines the range of a rifle with the fire rate of a submachine gun. Enter Hugo Schmeisser, the weapons designer who would change everything. What Schmeisser created wasn't just another gun. It was a completely new category of weapon. He called it the Maschinenkarabiner 42, but that name wouldn't last long, because what he'd actually invented was the world's first true assault rifle. Let me paint you a picture of what made this weapon so revolutionary. The StG44 fired an intermediate cartridge, the 7.92 by 33 mm Kurz. Not as powerful as a full rifle round, not as weak as a pistol cartridge. This middle ground was genius. It gave soldiers accurate fire up to 300 meters, automatic capability for close combat, and controllable recoil. One weapon, 3 roles: rifle, submachine gun, and light machine gun, all in one package weighing just over 10 pounds. But here's where it gets interesting. Adolf Hitler himself initially opposed the project. He wanted traditional rifles and believed the intermediate cartridge was a waste of resources. So the designers got creative. They renamed it, first as a submachine gun to slip under Hitler's radar, then later as a machine carbine. By the time Hitler discovered the deception in 1943, German soldiers on the Eastern Front were already writing home about this miracle weapon that was keeping them alive. Hitler saw the combat reports. Soldiers equipped with the new weapon were surviving encounters they shouldn't have. He not only approved the design, but became one of its biggest advocates, personally christening it the Sturmgewehr 44, the assault rifle 44, the name that would define an entire category of weapons for the next century. By 1944, German factories were producing these rifles as fast as they could. But there was a problem. Germany was losing the war. Resources were scarce. Every StG44 required 38 man-hours to produce and cost the Reich valuable materials they didn't have. Still, they manufactured over 425,000 units between 1943 and 1945. Think about that. Nearly 500,000 of the most advanced weapons in the world, created by a regime in its death throes. The rifle saw action everywhere. The Eastern Front, where it earned its legendary reputation. The Western Front, where American GIs first encountered it with shock and awe. Even the final defense of Berlin, where Hitler Youth and elderly Volkssturm fighters wielded weapons more advanced than anything the Allies possessed. But now, let's talk about those 5,000 missing rifles. As the war drew to a close, the German command knew what was coming. Allied forces were closing in from all sides. The vast arsenal they'd built had to be moved, hidden, or destroyed. Documents captured after the war revealed something extraordinary. A shipment of 5,000 StG44 rifles, along with ammunition and spare parts, was designated for transport to a secret depot in North Africa. The plan was elaborate. These weapons would be cached in the desert, preserved for a potential guerrilla resistance movement, the so-called werewolf units that never fully materialized. The convoy left from a depot in Italy in March 1945. And then, nothing. The trucks, the drivers, the weapons, all disappeared. Here's what we know from fragmentary records and post-war interrogations. The convoy made it to Libya. Some reports suggest they reached as far as the Egyptian border. One captured German officer claimed the weapons were buried in a massive underground cache. GPS coordinates lost with the officer who organized the burial, who died in an Allied bombing raid days later. Other theories emerged over the decades. Some historians believe the convoy was ambushed by Bedouin raiders who took the weapons and scattered them across North Africa. There are unconfirmed reports of StG-44 rifles appearing in regional conflicts throughout the 1950s and 60s, in places like Algeria and Yemen. Were these rifles from that lost shipment? No one knows for certain. In 1982, a French archaeological team in southern Libya reported finding rusted weapon parts buried in the sand. Among them, components that matched StG-44 specifications. But before they could excavate further, political instability forced them to abandon the site. The exact location was never properly recorded. Somewhere in those endless dunes lies potentially one of the greatest archaeological finds in military history. The StG-44's influence didn't end with Nazi Germany's defeat. Soviet designers studied captured examples and created the AK-47, the most produced assault rifle in history. The American M16, the British SA-80, the Belgian FNF-AL. Every modern assault rifle traces its DNA back to Hugo Schmeisser's revolutionary design from 1942. Today, a functioning StG-44 in good condition sells for $30,000 to $50,000 at auction. That lost cache of 5,000 rifles would be worth $250 million on the collector's market alone. But the historical value, priceless. Each one is a time capsule, a physical connection to the moment when warfare changed forever. Think about this. Somewhere in the Sahara, beneath decades of shifting sand, there might be a forgotten bunker. Inside, racks of pristine StG-44 rifles, wrapped in protective greases, waiting. Waiting for someone to stumble upon them, waiting to tell their story. The StG-44 changed how we fight wars. It proved that innovation could come from the darkest places, from desperate circumstances. It showed that sometimes the right tool at the right time can shift the balance of entire armies. And those 5,000 lost rifles, they remind us that history still has secrets, buried treasure waiting to be discovered, stories waiting to be told. So I want to hear from you. If you could travel back in time and prevent those rifles from being lost, would you? Or do some artifacts deserve to stay buried? What do you think happened to that convoy in the desert? Drop your theories in the comments below. And if you're fascinated by these lost chapters of history like I am, hit that subscribe button, because we're just getting started. Remember, history isn't just what we know. It's also what we've lost. And sometimes the things we lose tell us even more than the things we keep.